Ladies and gentlemen, welcome from my side. My name is Friedrich Roithner. I'm CFO of PIERER Mobility AG. I'm working with PIERER Mobility AG in the meanwhile since 15 years. And I'm happy to give you now a short overview about our company and some details and information about the last year. You can see on the first slide the highlights of last year. PIERER Mobility, what is typical for our company, PIERER Mobility is a growth case. As you see, since 92, we have had a growth of an average of 16% per year. What is the base of our business case? The base is for sure our premium brands, is it in the motorcycle business as well as in the bicycle business, and a strong focus on return and on free cash flow generation. We are pioneers in electrification. This is the outcome of the high innovation rate of our company. And already in 21, we made 180 million euro turnover in this business segment. Let me give you an overview about the key figures of last year. It was an outstanding year with a plus of 33% in turnover. The EBITDA has grown by more than 40% up to 330 million. The EBIT by 80% to a number of more than 190 million euros. The EBIT margin of 9.5 and EBITDA margin with 16 was on the upper side of our guidance, and I think we have managed challenge of last year. Is it the supply chain issue or is it the COVID crisis in a very good way? What has to be mentioned is that also the earnings after minority have been increased last year. We had an amount of 60% of the total earnings after minorities. In future, this will change because of the uplifting project. In 22 onwards, we will have no more significant minorities in our equity structure. That means that beginning with 22, almost 100% of the earnings will be earnings of the main shareholder. EBITDA margin already mentioned, really a very good result, and again at the upper side of our guidance we published last year. Last but not least, the number of employees with more than 5,200 employees. I think it was a big challenge to reach that number because the employee market is nearly dried out. We increased by more than 660 employees, and what has to be mentioned is that nearly 1,000 employees are working in our R&D department. This is a share of more than 80%. So let's look a little bit more in detail regarding our business segments. The turnover I already mentioned. As you can see, the turnover in the motorcycle segment rised up by 33% in comparison with the past number of 2020. In the e-bike segment, the increase was 45%. And I think this is really an outstanding performance. We can say that nobody of our competitors could reach such a high increase. Also, the quality of the EBIT margin was outstanding. More than 10% we reached in the motorcycle segment. And also in the e-bike segment, we already reached 4.3%. On the long-term run, we expect that the margin in the bicycle segment will be very similar to the margin in the motorcycle segment. On the next slide, you see some key figures regarding our balance sheet. The balance sheet total rised up by more than 20% to a volume of more than 2 billion euros. The equity was close to 800 million euros. That means an equity ratio of nearly 40%. Our strategic goal is to be around about 40%, and having in mind that in that balance sheet total a number of 370 million euros cash was included. If I normalize this number a little bit by half of this amount, we reached an equity ratio of more than 40%. The working capital with 8% of the total turnover, I think it was a very good number. It's on the long-term run, more on the lower end. I expect as an average for the future around about 10%. And this outstanding working capital number led to a very low net debt position of 190 million euros. That means we reached a gearing of 25% and the net debt EBITDA ratio of 0.6. Both key figures are better than our expectation. Our strategic goal is a gearing ratio of lower than 50% and net debt EBITDA lower than 1.0. So the capex with 200 million euros is a figure where we are very proud to realize that volume. This is the base of our future results, and therefore we have a strong focus on the capex structure. The most important portion in the capex is the product development portion, with around about 55% of the total capex of the mentioned 200 million euros. Also tooling with around about 10% of the total capex. Also important because both are going into the direction of new product development. So, and this led at the end of the day to a free cash flow of more than 170 million euros. And on the next page, you can see the details, starting with an EBITDA of more than 330 million euros and a cash flow from investing of close to 200 million. We reached that number with 8.4% outstanding good. On the long-term run, our expectation is a sustainable free cash flow between 3 and 5%. That means in 2020 and also 21, we have been clear above that strategic target. And this target, I think, is important to keep our company independent, because it's important for us to finance our growth case out of our own cash flow. And with the remaining cash flow, we are also in addition able to pay out dividends. So then let us come to the last slide, the financial guidance for 22. We expect revenue growth of around about 6 to 10% in comparison with last year. That means, and I mentioned it before, PIERER Mobility is a growth case. Again, a growth in comparison with last year. The EBIT margin we see between 8 and 10%. This is our strategic guidance on a long-term and sustainable way. That means we want to grow without jeopardizing our EBIT quality. If everything is going well as we have it managed in 21, we expect to be in the middle of this range, perhaps on the upper half of that range, and the EBITDA margin with 15 to 70%, also full in line with the development of the last years. So thank you very much. And if you have any further questions, please contact our investor relations department. You can find the relevant information on our homepage. Thank you.
Hi there. Since you watched this company video until the end, I'm guessing you liked the video. And that's probably because we work very hard to create the most engaging and added value content for you. If you're a company and want to find out how we, at Seat 11A, can make a company video with and about you, please email us at content@seat11a.com.